I was like 12 when I first saw John Wick, but 14 was when I was properly enamored by it. It was a franchise that I saw blossomed over the years and taught me a lot about action cinema, as well as dealing with every social interaction as if I was some sort of badass assassin who's got less to say and more to show for. When Chapter 2 came out, everyone was laughing about Lego Batman movie, and as goated as that film was, I was mainly uploading Phase KFC video, what's learning how to do this reload. And when Chapter 3 came out, everyone was dealing with the fallout / post-nut clarity of Avengers Endgame, whilst I was having a deep conversation with my buddy AJ about Keanu Reeves throwing knives at bees whilst playing Minecraft. And after COVID, Chapter 4 came out with the promise of a spin-off series and a film, as well as Chapter 5. And considering the conclusive ending of Chapter 4 and the subpar effort of the Continental series starring Mel Gibson, I was ready to say goodbye to this franchise. But what I didn't realize going to this is that I was actually saying hello to Ana de Armas. Ballerina follows trained Rosca-Roma assassin Eve Macaro, who exacts out revenge for her father's death. It also takes place between John Wick stabs a guy in the eye and John Wick fights a blind guy. If you don't want any of this to be spoiled for you, you can always skip to my general thoughts and feelings, or do yourself a favor and watch the film, and come back and hear me out, because I need the view. Ballerina is through and through a pure blood and bones and action film. And the action sequences are just very creative as they bounce from fist fights to gunfights, and even at one point a grenade fight, and even a fucking flamethrower, and plates. It was just very hooking, and it was just always entertaining to watch, alongside the cinematography, which also carries this film, as it feels more like an extension to the Wick films as opposed to being a visually jarring outlier of the whole franchise. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's just the pacing with the choreography and the soundtrack, and just the brutality of these sequences just makes this film genuinely a fun ride altogether, and it just works really well as a standalone character piece. I think Ana de Armas does a terrific job of playing Eve Macaro, as her character dynamics are equivalent to John Wick. She is essentially a female John Wick, and the film does hammer that in a bit, but it also shows that she's also very different from John Wick in terms of learning to find her own strengths in the first act and using her own wits and even figure out her own fighting style. Keanu Reeves does appear again as John Wick, mainly in the third act and even some at the beginning, but he's mainly utilized as part cameo and part plot device, as he plays an important part in the third act. But he doesn't overstay his welcome, as the spotlight is on Ana de Armas with this one. And yes, he still has his own dedicated action sequence where he just fucking clots everyone, but it doesn't take away from Ana de Armas. Norman Reedus is also in this. He does have his own action scene, but he sort of dips from there, but his character does play a small part, as he has a kid that isn't a funky fetus. The kid is also kind of used as a big thematic point in the film, as Eve Macaro kind of sees herself in the kid, and that's where it leads to the third act of saving the kid whilst also exacting out the revenge. We do see some familiar faces, but I just can't take my eyes off of Ana de Armas eviscerating a man with a grenade belt, which was a real holy fucking shit moment, which this film has a lot of. But also, whilst watching the action scenes, I found myself just kind of slowly falling more and more in love with Ana de Armas. Not necessarily by the things she says or the way she looks, but by the things she does in this. Because she's killing like dozens of people, and it never comes off as flaunting. It's just cool. And I think this general feeling of connecting and just giving a shit about a character is what made me love the whole John Wick franchise in general. It's not the deep story or the sleek dialogue, it's the action, what the characters are doing. It's cool. However, I do think the story of this is serviceable. It doesn't do anything extraordinary, as it does recycle some plot elements and tropes that the franchise is known for, but it also throws in its own personality and twist. For example, the nightclub sequence in this one has the usual person is tasked to hunt another person, but it does flip the switch on that by making Eve not allowed to kill anyone, hence she's given rubber bullets, which I think does make the action sequence a lot more interesting. And also, Le Castlevanias like, I don't know what they're smoking, but they cranked out a banger in that sequence. I'm definitely gonna be listening to that whilst walking and just looking pissed off. Another scene that also flips the switch is they kind of parody the armory room scene in chapter 2, where one of the people are displaying the weapons and talking about it in great detail, which is iconic, but then bad guys intervenes in the middle of it, which just leads to a grenade fueled fight scene. I thought the villain was kind of underwritten, as he is really just quote-unquote the bad guy and nothing much to it. Like, the latter half of the film takes place in a town filled with cult members that I can only describe as if the brainwashed villagers from Resident Evil 4 were in the snowy, wintry landscape of Resident Evil Village. It's just very atmospheric and it's just very cool. But you mainly get an idea of what the cult is. And I guess I just wanted that aspect to have been explored a little bit more, as well as the sister plotline that is just kind of thrown in there. And when that plotline is touched upon, it's kind of thrown out the window as the sister character just dies before there's even any dramatic weight to it. Like, yeah, the whole film does kind of struggle with its thematic depth and ideas, but wholeheartedly, I think it more than makes up for all of that with its easy to follow premise that is heavily sandwiched by one of the most exciting action sequences to date. A recent trend that I've been seeing and just want to stop is this. This film is marketed as From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. And yes, as true as it is, but it reminded me of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Like, yeah, people might be stupid, but we do not need a special chyron to tell us, hey, it's related to this movie that everyone likes. If it's necessary to add an extra label that's connected to sequels, like how Star Wars was retitled with episodes, or Indiana Jones throwing in Indiana Jones and blank, and Breaking adding Electric Boogaloo, just let the film stand on its own, because I think adding a chyron to say that, hey, this film is linked to the universe kind of feels disrespectful to the film as a whole. And I could be wrong, maybe this is the reason why the film might make a lot of money, or why a lot of people are going to watch the film, but to me it just feels a bit exploitative. I don't know, but I guess that's just marketing at the end of the day. Ballerina is a sturdy yet thrilling standalone feature that delivers on the sleek and bloody action hallmark that the John Wick franchise is iconic for. A whooping 5 Ana de Armas out of 5. Which earns this film a certified banger stamp of approval. Its general plot may be basic, but it's in the inventive and choreographed violence where this film just truly shines. And as my buddy, The Cure, would say, it sure shit is Friday, and I'm in love. Alongside the 2-hour and 5-minute runtime that feels like a cool breeze over the mountains, and no post-credit bullshit, this film is fantastic that it might actually be my favorite film of the franchise. Hell, it might even be my favorite film of the year. John Wick should probably add the subtitle of From the World of Ballerina. That's a joke, by the way, but you get the point. But overall, I support my fellow Cuban, Ms. Ana Celia de Armas Caso. I will be seated for Ballerina Chapter 2, Electric Boogaloo. Or to Balla, to Rena. I have served and I've been of service. Thanks for watching. I hope you found my yapping interesting, but let me know what you thought of the film. Did you think it was awesome, or were you disappointed, or do you think I look lonely? Have a good night.
Hi, I'm Keanu Reeves.